Mr. Speaker.
Ian Lees-Galloway.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This budget is so devoid of vision and so devoid of substance that the previous contribution from the young fella Todd Barclay over there, he only had to fill 5 minutes, and he gave us 4 minutes about the Labour Green Alliance, which has obviously got the National Party shaking in their boots, and then he talked about toilets. That's the National Party vision for New Zealand. That's how much substance there was in this budget. And that's what we've heard throughout the budget speeches from the National Party members. Very little about the budget itself, a lot of obsession with the fact that Labour and the Greens are working together to change the government, but they can't bring themselves to talk about the budget that Bill English delivered just last week. Mr. Speaker, the measure by which I look at any budget, and I think the measure by which most New Zealanders look at a budget, is what does it do to build the platform on which people can succeed? Because success, it means a lot of things to different people. Success can be making a lot of money, it can be being very good at your job, it can be contributing to your community, it can be raising good kids, having a good home, it can be whatever you want it to be, actually. We all decide how it is that we want to be successful in life. But the common themes in success are taking your opportunities, applying yourself, making the most of your opportunities, working hard to get ahead. And most people, all but the very tiniest few people, don't look to us in Parliament or look to the government to make them successful. What they look to us to do is to create the conditions in which they can be successful, in which their hard work actually does mean that they get ahead and they achieve success in life, whatever that may mean to them. And so I've looked at this budget through that lens. What does it do to build the platform on which people can be successful, on which people can get ahead? And in talking with people about, what is it that you need? What are the opportunities that you need? It comes back to the basics: health, housing, education, jobs. That's what people want our government to focus on. And almost every conversation comes back to housing. Because without a safe, secure, warm, dry home to live in, it's impossible to build the rest of your life. Without knowing that you've got the security to live in your neighbourhood so that your kids can go to the same school year after year and have that continuity, to put roots down in your community so that you can build those foundations, people find it very, very difficult to get ahead. So what is the situation? What is the challenge to that at the moment? The challenge to that at the moment is that we have the lowest rate of home ownership since the 1950s. And yet there wasn't one thing in this budget to help people get into their first home, to help people get onto the ladder, to help people secure themselves for their lives and for their retirement by being able to own their own home. Not one thing, when the biggest challenge that New Zealand is facing, the biggest thing which is undermining that platform of opportunity that the government should be building, is home ownership. Not one thing. But it's not just about people who own homes, it's about people who rent homes as well. Where is the effort to make sure that rental homes are warm and dry so that kids don't get sick and end up in hospital, end up missing days at school, so that adults don't end up having to take sick leave from work? Where are those initiatives? Missing. Nothing. Not a sausage. Where are the efforts to make sure that there is substantial social housing and state housing? Paula Bennett says she wants to pay people $5,000 to get out of Auckland and go and live in a state house somewhere else. Well, come to my city, Paula Bennett, where you're tearing down state houses and selling off the land. $5,000 isn't going to help if someone comes to my city and there are no state houses, because you've torn them all down and you make it nearly impossible for people to get on the waiting list. So you can pretend that we don't actually need any more state houses. So where is the effort from this government on housing, regardless of whether you're a renter, regardless of whether you need social housing, regardless of whether you're trying to own your own home? Where is the effort from this government to lay that foundation so that people can be successful. In health, people need to know that they can go to the GP and they're not going to be charged huge amounts of money just to be able to go and see the doctor. We don't want people to be avoiding going and seeing the doctor because it's too expensive. We also want people to know that when they need a procedure at hospital, they're going to be able to get on the waiting list in the first place. National can crow about its numbers, but we know it's all fudged. It's just like state housing. It's actually impossible to get on the waiting list in the first place. And so people get sick, or people suffer from things that could be treated if this government was actually prepared to fund our health system just enough to help it tread water, so that year on year, the health system provided what it provided the year before, instead of DHBs having to find every imaginative way possible to cut back services. And again, people can't get ahead, they can't succeed if the health system isn't there to lay that foundation for success. Education. This government has frozen the operations grant for schools at a time when parents are paying more for their children's education than ever before. They have frozen the operations grant. Parents are going to have to pay more and more for what should be free state education. And what happens when the cost of education goes up? The children of wealthy parents do well. The children of parents who are struggling to make ends meet do poorly, because their schools can't rely on parents stumping up the cash to actually provide that education for their children. So this government is growing the gap. Education is supposed to be the leveller. It's supposed to be the thing that closes gaps, that gives people opportunity. No matter what their background, no matter what situation they're born into, we have agreed to provide state-funded education so that every child has the opportunity to get ahead. What does this government do? They say we're going to make it easier for children born into privileged circumstances to get ahead than it is for children born into underprivileged circumstances to get ahead. Growing the gap between the rich and the rest and undermining that platform on which we build success in New Zealand. What about jobs? Government likes to talk about all the jobs it's created, although then it says that governments don't create jobs. I can't quite tell what the National Party's message is on jobs, actually. They never tell us about the jobs that have disappeared under the time that they've been in government. They never tell us about the fact there are more people unemployed after 8 years of national government than there were before they came in. And they came in during a global financial crisis. They came in under the global financial crisis, and there are more people unemployed. Jamie Lee Ross, there are more people unemployed today than when you came into government. And the unemployment rate is going up again. So whether you want to talk about the raw figure or if you want to talk about it in percentage terms, it's going up. Unemployment is going up. You can't argue against that. It's the facts.
That's right.
And it's a failure on the part of this government to ensure that that platform of success is built. Yes, jobs come and go, industries rise and fall, but a thriving economy is one in which people can feel secure that if they do lose their job, there will be another job available for them. If they work hard, if they get the qualifications that they need, if they work hard, if they go to work every day and they show up on time and they do their job well, that they're going to be able to get ahead. But I know so many people who lost their jobs over the last few years and have struggled to get back into the workforce because every time they apply for a job, there are hundreds of other people applying for jobs. There are 25,000 more young people not in education or training or work than there were when this national government came to power. So I ask national MPs, instead of going on obsessively about what the opposition is doing, tell us, in your budget, what are you doing to build the platform for success? What are you doing to help New Zealanders get ahead? What are you doing to make sure that people who do work hard do have the opportunity to be successful, whatever success means to them? I haven't heard that from one member opposite. It's time to actually focus on the challenges, and it's time to actually start working for the people who vote for you. It's time we had a budget with vision that builds the opportunities for success.
The Honourable Paul